Hello, I'm Nina,
I'm Ethan.
and we are Bloody Essentials. Just want to send a quick thank you to everybody who's already supported the podcast. It really means a lot, and it allows us to continue what we are doing. We also wanted to give a quick shout out to Rick Paulton, our Patreon member. Thank you, Rick, so much for your support. It really means a lot, and as you know, all the proceeds go back into the podcast. If you would like to be mentioned in our episodes as well and receive fun little goodies from the whole Bloody and I almost said Bloody Enchilada, Bloody Essentials team, feel free to join our Patreon. We have fun perks, including a Discord channel where you can chat directly with us. And we also will be setting up monthly movie parties with our Patreons very soon. So that is going to be exciting. We also wanted to shout out the Horror House Shop. They are having some difficulties right now. They just had some water damage in their shop here in Chicago. So if you guys can help them out and support them, you can get 10% off your online orders at the Horror House Shop. That's at thecrypticcloset.com and use promo code Bloody Essentials. And anything that we can do to help them out, that'd be awesome, guys.
Definitely, they're great guys.
They are. We have a couple of upcoming appearances. Next week, we will be at Sound Growler in Tinley Park for Horror Trivia October 24th. That's at 7:30 p.m. We'll be hosting that event, and we've got door prizes and gifts for the winners and all kinds of stuff. We'll have our merch out for sale as well. Right?
Absolutely.
And
November 22nd through the 24th, we will be in Chicago at the Days of the Dead Horror Convention in Rosemont. We will not have a table, but all three of us are going to be there as patrons. So please, if you see us, come out, say hi, have a drink, take a picture. We'd love to meet you guys and put you on our socials.
absolutely. And tonight we are very excited as part of our spooky season. We are talking about gateway horror, and this, if you don't know what gateway horror is, this is specific to maybe things that you'd rather watch with kids, your children, young adults, little ones, people who aren't so much into horror, that kind of thing. And tonight we have a guest with us. His name is Ken Sledge from Sledgehammer Horror. Hi, Ken.
Hey, Ken.
I figured
How
if we're
you doing?
talking calm gateway horror, we're going to talk Terrifier. So I figured I would just wear the glasses.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't think Terrifier is for anybody that's squeamish.
No, not at all. Thank you guys so much for inviting me on and having me here. It's very much an honor to be here. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks for
absolutely.
being here.
We're very happy to have you on. The reason I asked you to come on is because you also do you host a YouTube channel and you talk with people about their first horror movies. And I was actually a guest on this series, and I love that you do that because I think that some of the answers you get are interesting because they're not usually horror movies.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you could tell everybody about more of what you do.
Yeah, my wife and I run Sledgehammer Horror. Ashley, she couldn't be here tonight. Unfortunately, she had to work. My first horror movie is the one that I do on my own. Like you said, I bring guests on. We talk about the first horror movie they watched, how they got started in the genre. And then Ashley is just like this maniac when it comes to coming up with ideas. And we do a segment called Didn't See That Coming, where we talk about a horror movie with a twist ending and how that affected us, versus where we take an original versus a remake and we verse them against each other, see which one we like more, pick out, pros and cons from each one. In Defense Of, which is kind of our favorite one right now, where we bring a guest on and we defend a movie that's maybe not as well received in the community. And then we do reviews, top tens. We try to put out 5 to 6 videos a week. So we try really hard to, keep our people fed, as the kids say.
Yeah. That's very hectic schedule, but I'm impressed.
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, we're very excited to have you on. Like I said, we're going to be talking about some of our favorite gateway horrors, couple honorable mentions, and I also have a separate section for things for older adults, older kids, older adults, stuff like that. So, really quick, since Jamie can't be here with us, unfortunately, tonight, I did have to mention it is not on my list and it's not on Ethan's list because we knew Jamie would mention it. So because Jamie's not here, we have to say it. Jamie will always choose Gremlins as the ultimate gateway horror. So we're just
Always.
going to put that to bed right now.
I have it on
It's not
mine.
on our list. Perfect. Awesome. All right. Ken, if you want to go ahead and give us one of your gateway horror picks.
Yeah, I'm gonna start from lowest to heaviest, like where what
Perfect.
it comes to. And the two, like one that we watch every single Halloween with our kids. We've been doing it since before we had children. Ashley and I, for those of you that don't know, we've been together 20 years. And we would take the kids trick-or-treating. Even before we had our own kids, we would take our little brother trick-or-treating. And then we'd come home and watch Hocus Pocus. That is the movie that we watch every year. Ashley is obsessed with it. She's got the Three Witches hair tattooed on her forearm. Actually, we have their autographed picture right here. It's always in our studio all the time.
Wow.
That's impressive.
Yeah, like I said, it's a movie that Ashley very much adores, and especially for a child, it has enough of the spooky elements. You have the witches getting hanged. You have, the boy getting turned into the cat, Binks.
Yeah.
You have the cat getting hit by the car. You have Billy Butcherson. You have enough spooky moments for a child. But it's still light enough to where you have a brother-sister relationship that's really close. There's not the blood. There's the kills. You see people die, but it's not heavy enough to where someone's getting their throat cut or someone's getting arms ripped off. It's light enough to where you can watch it with your children, especially on Halloween night. We go out trick-or-treating. We come home. We fill up the popcorn bucket with popcorn and Reese's Pieces, and we just sit in front of the TV and we watch Hocus Pocus every Halloween. So that's one that for little kids, I would have to say that would be a really good start to introduce them into the kind of spooky world of horror.
Absolutely.
I like it.
Yeah.
My wife is a big fan of Hocus Pocus.
Mm-hmm.
She really likes it.
For her birthday this year, I got her the original script autographed by everyone in the cast.
Wow. Oh, that's so cool.
And we were just showing it off because we just did an episode on our favorite physical media items. So I think she might have already taken it back up and put it back in the cupboard. But that was one that I was super lucky to get. I have a friend that is close with some of them. So I was able to, get her something special for her birthday. So
that's
awesome.
Impressive. Yeah.
That's awesome.
One of my picks is something I remember actually renting from the video store many times as a kid for Halloween. And it is Bedknobs and Broomsticks. If you don't know, it is very similar to Mary Poppins in the regard that the music is all written by the same writers as Mary Poppins, and it has the dad from Mary Poppins in it. It stars Angela Lansbury, and she is basically a witch in the middle of World War II, and she's trying to use magic as a way to end the war. Okay. And it's got all the magical elements. It's got black cats. It's got creepy music and nice and spooky, not too scary, nice lightheartedness, but it's set in the middle of World War II. So it's got a nice mix of real world horror mixed with magic and spookiness. So that's a fun one.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll put that on my roster because I've never seen it.
We're going to have to watch it on DVD actually, because Disney Plus has it, but for some reason they have an edited version of it. So you can only watch the full movie on DVD specifically, not Blu-ray.
Okay. Well,
because they've done something weird. I don't know why it's like that. I don't know why they've chopped it up in such a way, but it's completely unwatchable on Disney Plus, in my opinion. So invest in the DVD. You will not regret it.
All right. I will do that.
Yeah.
All right. My first pick, I'm sure you could probably tell from the shirt, is 1987's The Monster Squad, which is about a group of 12-year-old boys who form a Universal Monsters Club to save their town from Count Dracula and all of his monsters. I, of course, watched this when it first came out. I think I was like 10 or 11 years old when it first came out, and I automatically loved it. I love all the Universal monsters anyway. Frankenstein, Dracula, all that. So this was right up my alley. When my son was young, of course, he wanted to be like Daddy. He's like, I want to watch scary movies with you. I want to watch scary movies with you. So I was like, okay, I obviously can't show him, somebody getting their head hacked off. My wife will kill me. I'm like, so we did the Universal monsters first, and then he really liked those. So I introduced him to this, and he's a big a fan as I am. So
Wolfman's got nards, baby.
Wolfman's got nards, absolutely. So that's one that we always watch here on the spooky Halloween time. I say spooky time, but it's spooky time is 24/7, 365 for us. So
Right.
Yeah.
for all you normal people, when it's spooky time, this is what we watch. So
Well, take this, guys, because we're going to talk about some Christmas movies too. So take this and remember it. You can watch horror after October. I would say that another one, because I'm trying to go, like I said, in order of least scary to scariest, in my opinion.
Okay.
I'm going to say the next one is going to be Casper from 1993 or 4. I can't remember for sure which year. Again, it's still got some heavy moments. You have the dad dying and then coming back as a ghost. You have the mom coming back and seeing. You find out that Casper died. I got
the
sick.
way Casper died.
Dad got
Oh my
sad,
God. I used to forward through that part because I didn't want to cry.
Right. And it's still, like I said, it's still fun enough. And especially for adults, like we get the Ghostbusters reference. Who are you going to call? Someone else.
Someone else.
When he runs out of the house. And so like I said, it's still got enough of that fear element for a child. And for an adult, we still get to laugh throughout the movie. There's still things that we can laugh at. Like when they're at the bar and they're all drunk. They're trying to do karaoke. We can't kill him. And like they come and like the dad tries to talk to him and they hide the stuff behind their clear backs. It's still
I love that one.
Yes, it's still got enough to where you can watch it with your kids, but you're not feeling like you're watching a child's horror movie. You're still having fun when you're watching it. So, because that's the big thing for me, especially when I'm talking gateway horror. I'm not looking for something that's going to scare me. I'm looking for something to introduce somebody else into horror that I can still be entertained while I'm watching.
Yeah.
That's where my goal is with gateway horror. Yeah. And since you already brought it up, I was going to talk about The Gate next, because I still feel like at least in The Gate, you've been naughty.
Yes.
That's another moment that to me I think because everybody talks about The Gate like it's some kid movie, and man, like if you watch that movie, there's plenty of skit. That's how I learned how to spin a record backwards.
Oh my God.
I feel like, because we were talking about Monster Squad, I feel like The Gate and Monster Squad is the perfect double feature.
Yes.
Like those two movies go together so well. It's the perfect double feature. So I had to talk about Casper and The Gate together just because we were on the Monster Squad subject. And whenever I think of Monster Squad, I think of The Gate, because that to me, it goes together like peas and carrots, like that's what it is. Like you got to watch those two movies together.
I love that. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. I have to mention it because it's not it's not the holiday season without these movies. I really love Ernest, and I have to mention it. So Ernest Scared Stupid. I remember loving these movies as a kid, and they were on all the time. So it's the perfect, slapstick kind of comedy, and it's something for the adults, it's something for the kids. I think no matter what your age, it's the perfect kind of movie for Halloween.
So quotable.
Oh my God.
You will pay for the sins of your forefathers. I only had one father and I barely even knew him. It's so perfect. It's great. Jim Varney's the way that he's able to deliver his lines is pure comedy gold, because he's able to still make the facial expressions. He doesn't take a break from facial acting.
Never.
While and he was such a great character actor. So
he was.
Good.
Everybody talks about Robin Williams, and if you know me, I adore Robin Williams, but Jim Varney, incredible character actor, incredible.
Well, look, he was able to pull off the dad in the Beverly Hillbillies remake you know, and like
Yeah.
he nailed that role. Like
Yeah.
everything he did was so damn good.
It was. Yeah. Gone way too soon.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
When you go to Scarefest, you should stop by his grave because it's in Lexington.
Oh, I definitely will.
Yeah,
Okay.
please do.
This
Because
weekend, guys.
yeah,
We'll be
I
at
was,
Scarefest.
Yep.
yeah, I was hoping to go and I'm not able to, unfortunately. But
Bummer.
please go and put something down on his grave. That would be awesome.
Absolutely.
Ethan, what's your next pick?
Okay, pardon me. My next pick is 2010's Bolt Neck. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
No.
Okay, the premise of the movie is this kid who's in high school has a friend die. So he somehow gets a serial killer's brain
Of course, that's your favorite.
and he puts it in him and kind of does like this Frankenstein thing. So he brings the kid back, but it's obviously not his friend, it's a serial killer. But and you think, oh my God, that's a serial killer. You're gonna watch, let kids watch it. It's not slash them, kill them up. It's geared toward younger teenage kids. But it's actually a pretty good movie. So we also watched that on Halloween time. So
Okay.
Love that.
That's a good one. I'll have to check
Yeah.
that out.
Yeah. Ken, what about you? What's another one for you?
Another one that we watch every Christmas, and I know people will say Gremlins, that's the Christmas. That is not. We do watch that every year, but we don't watch it on Christmas Day. Our Christmas night horror movie every year is Krampus.
Oh, that's a
I
good one.
Krampus.
absolutely love this movie. I think, again, it's scary enough to where you could consider it a horror movie, but the family aspect is so lighthearted that kids can get into this movie. And the villains throughout the whole movie, all the different Krampus army things are all so scary looking, and the practical effects are so good, and that feeling of isolation. And you even get grandma telling the story about when she first met Krampus, and you have that animation one to do that, and it looks so good. Like, I'm a huge fan of Krampus.
Yes.
Because I'm the opposite of everybody else. I don't like Trick or Treat. I think Trick or Treat may be the most overrated horror movie of all time. And I know people love it, which is fine. Like, if we all like and dislike the same things, the horror community would be boring. I'm jealous of people that like Trick or Treat because I want to like it. Like, I'm jealous of you.
That's fair. That's fair.
I don't want to not like something. I'm too old for that shit. I don't want to waste my time. Like, I want to have fun with everything I do. But, he did Krampus and Trick or Treat, and he did two movies that I think are integral holiday movies in the horror world.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Like I said, even though Trick or Treat is not my cup of tea, I would be lying if I didn't say it was a very iconic horror movie, and probably right below Halloween 78, the most watched Halloween film. And yeah, that's awesome. That's amazing. I'm glad that it has that audience. It's just, I'm not a member of that audience. So
I get it. I get it. There are definitely some moments that didn't age well, for sure. I like Trick or Treat. I think it's a good way to introduce more adults into horror versus kids. Just because I think there's some kills that are a bit too much for younger audiences, but I really enjoyed it. It's not I don't watch it every year, but I do enjoy watching it. Yeah.
And we do, because my girls love it. And so we get their Sam suckers and from Spirit Halloween, and they sit down.
You get the new ones every year?
Yeah.
Oh.
One piece of advice that I can give parents, if you're wondering, like, what is something I can do to help get my children into horror? Now, there's no right or wrong answer to that. I've always believed if you introduce a child to horror at a very young age and you educate them on the difference between fantasy and reality and how this is not real, it makes them more grounded in reality. It makes them more level. One tip I can give you, and again, take it or leave it, something I've always done, especially with my daughters, is if we're going to watch a movie, we'll watch some of the special features first, and we'll watch some of the behind the scenes stuff so they can see, these are actors. This is how this was made. This is what they did. And my daughters went to set with me when I was in Bride of Killer Pinata, and they got to see, Daddy put on the makeup and all that stuff. Like they got to see how this happened. They were in the other short film we did where I died. Like they were.
Yeah.
We want to show them, like, yes, this is horror, yes, this is scary, but it's not real. And
Right.
if you really try to hurt somebody, that's real. You can't take that back. You can't rewind it. So those are the two pieces of advice I would give you. Let your kids watch horror when you think they're ready. Again, there's no right or wrong answer to when a child should start watching horror, but just make sure you're giving them the education to know the difference between right and wrong, and watch some special features with them. Let them watch some behind the scenes. Let them watch some bloopers. Let them watch some, gag reels and makeup effects when people getting their makeup put on, and so they can see the actor behind it. Maybe it'll make it seem a little more real to them.
I think that's a great point. Yes, for sure. Because as I've told you, Ken, my parents didn't do that until afterwards. And then it was a little too late because then they had 3 months worth of nightmares reassuring me that it was just make believe. In case you're wondering, that movie was Edward Scissorhands. It did not make my list, but because I don't think it's a good gateway horror for anybody. It was not a good time.
And I think that's amazing because, the movies that we grew up with, like I would put Jaws as a gateway horror film. And I know that some people are like, that's terrifying. But to a younger generation, like when we were young, that was scary. You show that to a kid now that's already seen Saw, they're like, this is boring. Like, what are you? I'm like, you're grounded. Go to your room.
Exactly.
So like it's you also have that generational thing where when we just like video games, when I saw Super Nintendo for the first time, I was like, there's no way graphics will ever get better than this.
Right.
We've reached the top of the mountain, and so it's just that generational thing of the generation you grew up in. So I think a lot of ours are going to be older 80s, 90s films because that's what our gateway was.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah. And I have a hard time, separating young kid movies versus, things that might be what I would consider more for teens and like preteen stuff like that. Like, just because I don't know, like I wouldn't, it would depend on the kid, of course, but like, I think that's what it comes down to ultimately is it depends on the child and the parents.
Yeah.
But the slashers, I'm not showing that to a 5-year-old.
Right.
So
I think it depends on, because I have one on my list that may be considered a little heavy, but I took my 4-year-old and my 12-year-olds to watch it in the theater, and they both loved it because the lighter moments outweigh the heavy moments.
Yeah.
Me and their mom went and watched it first. We watched it on Friday. It was one of our favorite films of the year. We took them on Sunday, and they both loved it. So I think again, I do, like I said, I have one newer movie on my list, but it's so hard because kids' attention spans now are just like, if the movie's a slow moving movie, like they're gone. And I could even say, The Wizard of Oz. Have your kid watch The Wizard of Oz. If the Wicked Witch stuff scares them, throwing the fire at the scarecrow and those monkeys jumping around, or Willy Wonka. See how they do with that tunnel scene.
Oh my God.
That was a scene that terrified me as a kid. So these are just our opinions. I just want to make that known. I'm not being like, hey, go take your kid to watch Monster Squad tonight. Like your children better than we know your children. So you'll know the level that you're willing to take them to. And
that's why ultimately this is our choices for our favorite gateway horrors.
Exactly.
But I do agree. I think Wizard of Oz is a big one. So is Willy Wonka. But I recently saw Wizard of Oz at Oz Park here in Chicago. And it was really cool because, like, this is a movie I grew up with and a lot of other adults have grown up with. And then when we were watching it in the park, there were kids under 5 singing and quoting the movie. And I'm just like, oh my God, we've come full circle. Like,
I mean,
I cannot believe that this movie is still, I can't believe this movie is still being watched, still being quoted. People know it. Like, it's going to continue
never
to
goes
endure.
Out of style.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. Same for Willy Wonka. I will say the tunnel scene did creep me out as a kid. And also when he yells at Grandpa Joe, I was like, don't yell at Grandpa Joe.
Yeah. Or like, just all these movies. And I don't know if you guys have ever watched it because I thought this was a very popular movie and nobody's ever talking about it, but Return to Oz is a total horror flick.
Oh my God, yes.
Like that movie is just a total straight, like the wheelies, those are nightmare fuel. Like I remember being a
Yeah.
kid, like, what the fuck are we watching? Like, this is scary, Grandma. Like, no, I don't like this at
Right.
all.
Yeah. Why is Dorothy in a mental institution?
Yeah. Return to
Yeah.
Oz is a straight up horror film, man.
Yeah, it is. I think it's my turn now.
Yeah, my bad.
No, it's fine. This is good. I love this.
That's okay. We'll just bounce around.
It's fine. Yeah, this is great.
Yeah.
I wrote down many, and I don't even know what's on my list anymore. So I just had so many honorable mentions and things. But another one I have to say is Brave Little Toaster.
Super scary moments in this film.
This movie is so heavy. If you don't know it, it's from the 80s or 90s, I think.
Yeah.
Like early 90s, maybe. But it's literally about these home appliances that were left behind, and they're going to find their owner to be returned to him and find their home because he just abandoned them and they don't know why. And it literally talks about suicide and
There's a lot of
so many things.
oh man.
So many
I mean,
heavy
even
topics.
the unliving yourself scenes, like they
Yeah,
are
that's what they call it, the unliving
heavy.
yourself.
Like it
Yeah.
is heavy shit. You're as a
Yeah.
kid, it's so heavy. I think that even as a kid, it goes over your head. Like you don't
It does.
get it, you
Yeah.
know, because you don't
Right.
know that type of thing yet. So you
Yeah.
don't understand the heaviness and the depth of what they're saying. But you watch that again as an adult, and you're like, what the fuck am I watching? Like, did I really not? I got goosebumps right now just from
I do
thinking about it. Like, it's one of those things where like it goes so over your head as a kid because you don't think about it.
Yeah, it's so insane that like my parents not only let us watch it, we owned it on
Yeah.
VHS, and they just like put it in. I don't think they had any clue. They're like, "Oh, it's a cartoon. It's fine."
About a toaster. How
About a
bad could this
toaster,
be?
right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, that I remember that one very well. Ethan, what about you?
Yeah. Parents, please watch the stuff before you just put it in. I've made that mistake before. My son's a big Batman fan. So when Blockbuster
boy.
and all those were going out of business, I went and I bought every Batman thing that I could buy, whether it's Dark Knight, any of it. I didn't realize, because I don't follow comics and all that, that there's a thing of Batman that's animated, but it's very, very dark, full
Yeah.
of cussing. I mean, sex, the whole 9
Yeah.
yards. Well, he was probably, I don't know, 5 or 6, and I put him to bed, and I'm like, he's like, Dad, I want to watch Batman. So I put Batman on. I was walking down the hall, and Bruce was like, "You effing son of a!" I was like, "Oh my God, what is this kid watching?" He's,
Yeah.
turn this off, and he's got cable on. And I walked in, and I was like, okay, apparently I need to go through all of your Batman stuff. He was like, Dad, he used to call him Baja because he couldn't say Batman. He said, Baja said bad words. I said, yes, he did. Yes, he did. We're gonna put on the old Batman, okay?
He's like, you missed it, Dad.
Yeah.
Baja was just punishing Catwoman.
Exactly. So yes,
Oh my
please
gosh.
watch your kids' stuff.
That's amazing.
And I think my next one, if I did not say this, my son would probably kill me, because as much as I am a horror fan, he is a Godzilla fan.
Oh, okay.
He loves Godzilla, and I think that has so many horror elements in it, and just
total horror.
Total horror movie. He's like,
yeah.
When he got a little older, he's like, Dad, I'm sorry I don't like horror as much as you, but I really like Godzilla. I'm like, son, Godzilla, it has its own genre, yes, but that is a horror movie. I'm like,
yeah,
it's totally horror. So
yeah, for sure.
I put that up there with Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Like it's horror 100%. Oh, it's not horror. Oh yeah, go battle that giant lizard and tell me you're going to be okay.
Exactly. I'm like, no, it's definitely horror. So
yeah. It's creature horror.
Yes, creature horror.
Yeah.
100%.
And I myself, the Godzilla films, I mean, I like the new ones and stuff that all come out, and they're all very entertaining. But I love the old stuff where Godzilla's like this, and you can actually see
strings and
the
everything.
strings work out. I think that is so great. The cheesier the better. So
Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah.
but that would be mine. With the next one would be Godzilla and King Kong. Godzilla, King Kong. I kind of roll those two together. So
Sure.
For sure. Ken, do you have any others you'd like to mention?
Yeah. I'm gonna say this one because it was my first horror movie, and I still watch it to this day. And it's House from 1985/86.
yes,
Again, definitely scary enough to make an impact and a difference. But it's such a horror. I mean, as a kid, to me, it was not a horror comedy. It was just a horror movie.
right.
But then the older I got, the more I started to realize, wow, there's a lot of real comedic elements throughout this movie. But there's still enough practical effects, monsters, scary shit in there to make it a solid horror film too.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. I would probably have to mention it's really hard to narrow this down. I have to mention Coraline. I know so many people when this movie came out that were my age. I was probably in high school by the time this came out. And I remember everybody that talked about this movie was petrified, absolutely petrified, because there's nothing more terrifying than having the illusion of a better set of parents until they want to sew buttons in your eyes.
The other mother, baby.
Whew, terrifying. And then she's got the little spindly fingers and long arms. Yeah, she's pure nightmare fuel.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Ethan, do you have any more?
I do. This one is a newer one
Oh,
from 2015, the Goosebumps movies.
Nice.
Yeah. My son was, I don't know, 6 when it came out. So he was like, Dad, are we going to go see it? It's a scary movie. It's a scary movie. I'm like, yeah, I'll take you to see it. I was like, this is going to be horrible. Surprisingly enough, I really liked it. I thought it was done very well.
I'm
So,
with
I liked
you.
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I thought it was really good. I liked both of them actually, but 2015, that's on the roster of watching every Halloween as well. So
Yeah.
Yeah. I love Goosebumps. I remember reading the books as a kid. The series, it's all great. We also have to mention Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Yeah.
That's also good. Scooby-Doo.
love Scooby.
Yeah, gotta love Scooby. And this is like if you want to get some, I think this is a perfect segue from younger audiences into teens. Courage the Cowardly Dog.
That's a good one.
If you want to give nightmares to your children, that's the one. Because there is nothing like turning that show on late at night and just letting, like, you will seriously have nightmares, Ethan.
Nice.
It is crazy the stuff that they used to have on for us to fall asleep to.
I'll go with the newer one that I was talking about because I do think that it is gateway, but it may be scary for some of the kids out there, and that is Abigail.
Love that movie.
Love that movie.
Yes. It was one of our favorites of the year going into it. And we took our girls to see Abigail, and they both adored it. They loved it. We were able to go and meet some of the cast, and Alicia Weir that played Abigail did a thing for my daughter. She made a video for my daughter. You say hi?
Hi, sweetheart.
And now my daughter is going to be Abigail for Halloween.
Oh,
And it was a movie that she sat through the whole movie. She wasn't scared. She wasn't petrified. She just had a really good time throughout the whole movie. So I would have to say Abigail would be another really good gateway horror movie. What do you think about the movie Abigail?
Well, I really like it. It's fun. I didn't get scared.
Nope, we didn't get scared, did we?
Mm-mm.
aw.
Do you have another one, Nina?
I do. This is more for older kids, obviously. There's nothing more horrifying than puberty. So Ginger Snaps is going to be my pick.
Okay.
Good choice.
Good choice.
Yeah, I think that that's a good one. The changes that your body is going through and then tying that into becoming a werewolf. I love that so much. And
Yes.
Yeah.
it's funny how you suddenly become really hot if you just add a couple of blonde streaks to your hair.
Noted.
Yep.
All right. The next one that I have is, and I love me some Cassandra Peterson. So, Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. I think that's
Excellent.
a great one. I showed that to my son when he was, I don't know, 5, 6 years old. I think I told you this, Nina. I'm like, come on, we'll watch a scary movie. And he's like, okay, Dad. So he hunkers up on the couch with me, and he's got his popcorn and everything. And it comes on. She starts, and he starts going, and I'm like, what's so funny? He's like, Dad. And I'm like, what's so funny? He's like, boobies. And I was like, Jesus, I'm gonna have a whole hour and a half of him just looking at her boobs, which great, it's fine.
I still do the same thing.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, he just did. Yeah, he's almost 16, and he'll be like, boobs, and I'm like, you have to be the father and act like a normal person. I'm like, Josh, are we supposed to say that? He's like, but boobs, and I'm like, yeah, okay, boobs. So
Yes.
But I was like, well, what did you think about the movie? He was like, boobies, and I was like, can you just tell your mom you liked it, please, and not tell her boobs? Of course, she said, Josh, how did you like it? You know what he told her, right? He said,
Boobs.
it was very good. Boobies. And I was like, oh, Jesus. I'm like, okay, we'll have a talk later after he goes to bed.
Yeah.
So,
On a scale of 1 to boobies, what did you think of this film?
exactly.
Boobies.
So if
That's
you have a boy,
include that in
so
the
if you-
rating system.
so if you have a boy you want to get into horror, Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, that's a great one. So,
And
Noted.
those are boobies.
yes, boobies.
Ken, do you have any more?
So I do have one more, and I think
Okay.
this to me is probably where I would say like the heaviest of the gateway horror movies, because we got to remember this movie is rated PG. So I am going with Toby Hooper's Poltergeist. I think
That's
that
a good one.
Great movie.
Poltergeist is, again, you have a relatable character in Carol Ann. The parents are so fucking 80s. Oh, they're so 80s. Like it's they're so like they're sitting there, smoking weed in the room, and the kids come in, like, and then you had like the clown, the tree, the face in the mirror. Like there's so many moments that are truly like you watch this movie now and you're like, PG? Like I watched this movie for the first time on syndicated Fox 36 Toledo at like 12 on a Saturday. Like
This was before PG-13 was a rating, though.
I know, but I still think this back then, like I'm shocked this didn't get an R rating.
Yeah.
You had the drug use, you had the scary moments, you had the deaths, you had them talking about Indian burial grounds, and like I was shocked.
The face in the bathroom mirror and then the skeletons at the end for sure should have gotten an R rating.
Yeah. I like that. And then the two movies that I saw for the first time on Fox 36 Toledo, because we used to watch it every Saturday morning after our cartoons, they'd play a horror movie or a scary movie in the afternoon.
Mhm.
This and Tourist Trap were the two that I remember vividly being like,
movie.
what the hell did I just watch? Like Mr. Slauson haunted my nightmares for years.
Oh my God.
Nice.
And
True
Poltergeist
nightmares.
2 and 3 are just as terrifying too because of the Reverend. Oh my God.
Well, I will say
Reverend Kane's creepy.
in the franchise, Poltergeist 3 is my favorite.
I
know
love
that's a
Poltergeist
very hot
3.
take.
No, I love Poltergeist 3.
Yeah.
Every time we drive past the building in Chicago, I'm like, that's the Poltergeist building.
Yeah. That's a scary movie, man. Like the stuff that happens in the mirrors, or like when Caroline first walks up and she puts her hands on it and they grab her, like, we're back, and they pull her up the mirror.
Yes.
Like
so terrifying.
So good, man. Or like another moment that really got me as a kid when Aunt Pat is trying to pull her out of the bedroom.
Oh
and
my
Tangina
God.
comes and pushes her away. It's like, that's not Carol Ann. And she looks up and she's that demon. And she's like, damn you. She gets pulled back in the room. Like, whoo, that was heavy.
Yeah.
And they make one of the greatest meta references of all time in that movie that nobody catches. Because Aunt Pat, as we all know, was the bully in the movie Carrie.
Yes.
And in this movie, the uncle's talking to Aunt Pat, and he's like, listen, I don't want you or that shrink filling Carol Ann's mind, making her out to be like she's Carrie or something. And every time he does it, I'm like, meta moment. Let's go. Like, I thought that was perfect. Like, and again, something I didn't notice until I was an adult and I was starting to review horror movies and picking them apart. But I was just like, genius. That's genius. And
So genius.
the one shot on the crane out the window when she's walking through the house and you have that one long take going through each room. Like, oh my gosh.
That movie
Beautiful.
is so underrated. So underrated.
Anyone that has Shudder, if you haven't, they have a series on there called Cursed Films. And they have one about Poltergeist. I strongly suggest you watch it. And they really hit you hard. Like the director's like, you know, because for those that don't know, Heather O'Rourke, who played Carol Ann, passed away during the filming of Poltergeist 3.
Yeah.
And they didn't even want to finish the movie. Like they were like, you know, nobody wanted to be on set. And the studio was like, I don't care. We already spent the money, finish the movie. That's why they got the dog shit ending on there that they got. If it was up to me, now this is how I would have ended it, just to throw it out there. You couldn't use Carol Ann, obviously, but you can use a body double the way they did. Mm-hmm. What I would have done, because I hate the ending where you have Reverend Cain laughing in the lightning strike. It makes no sense to me. So what I would have done is I would have paid any amount of money to get the parents from 1 and 2 to come back for one last scene in Heather's memory. You have them pulling up in the car and getting out, and the body double of Carol Ann running out and jumping in their arms. And then they just wave goodbye to Aunt Pat. They get back in the car and they drive off.
Okay, I have chills right now.
Yeah, that would have been great.
That would have been
their
incredible.
Happily ever after. There's no teaser of a sequel. You don't have the lightning strike hitting the building and Reverend Cain laughing, because you're never going to do anything with this story again, and you know that. So to end it like that, I feel was so disrespectful to Heather's memory. Like,
yeah, that's fair.
Part of the deal of them doing the remake, the Poltergeist 2015, the girl could not be named Carol Ann. The girl's name is Madison in that movie.
Right.
And that was part of the deal. They were like, listen, Heather is Carol Ann. We will never have another Carol Ann. If you want to do this.
I'm so glad they did that.
Right. The movie, forgettable. It's not bad.
Yeah.
It's forgettable.
It's okay.
You know, it's just, exactly. It's just okay. But that right there brought it up a whole point for me. The fact that they honored her memory so much that it was like, that's Carol Ann. That's it forever. If you want to do this, you will change the names, because
I love that.
We're not taking that away from them. Yeah. So that's why. And they even casted an actress that's the complete polar opposite of Heather. She's dark hair, dark eyes. You know, like, that to me gives you, that's a human element. Whether I'm entertained or not, you did something great as a human being to honor the memory of a young lady that lost her life because of a medical misdiagnosis. It's way too young. So great job. Great job.
Yeah,
definitely.
Absolutely. I also had one more I wanted to mention. This is a PG-13 horror, and I'm sure people are going to roll their eyes, but I think it's a great gateway from childhood into young adult, and it's Paranormal Activity. There's not a lot of violence until the end, and most of it is off screen.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it is a good segue into that. If you like ghosts and things like that, it's perfect. This is a good movie to watch with your teenage kids. It really is. It's a slow burn, but sometimes that could be a good thing. Make sure the phones are down and just turn off all the lights and just watch it. It is a great, at least the first one is a great one.
Do you guys remember the marketing for that movie?
Yes. I loved this movie. This is one of the last ones I rented from the video store.
Like, I'll never forget. The trailer was literally nothing of the movie at all. The trailer was literally people screaming inside the movie theater.
Yeah.
And it was like, you want to find out what they're screaming about? Come watch Paranormal Activity. And you're like,
it was incredible.
I can see this.
Yeah.
like, that's the best. That and the Blair Witch, I think, will never be topped in what they did with their marketing.
No.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
they did such a great job. People actually thought this one was real too.
Mm-hmm.
They literally had to look it up.
Yeah.
Because I believe they used their real first names, I believe.
Yes, they did. They 100% did.
Yeah.
And that's what I loved about these movies, is they were so good. And like I said, you can't do that now. You know, we have Google in our pocket. You know, like we can't do that now. But I'll never forget how amazing the marketing was for Paranormal Activity. People had to see this movie, and they had no idea what was happening in it at all. No clue. All they knew was it was people in a movie theater screaming their guts out, we need to figure out what they're screaming about. Let's go watch
Yeah.
this movie.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I remember we rented it from the video store and we were all watching it together as a family. And that was a rare occasion in my household. But I remember my sister, for some reason, the living room was set up where the parents' bedroom was on one side and then our bedroom was on the opposite end of the living room. And for some reason, my sister was sitting on the floor with the bedroom doors open. She was sitting on the floor with her back to the bedroom. And I was on the couch, and it came time for the big final scene. And then you saw Micah's body getting flung towards the camera, and she shot up so fast and went into that bedroom and just, we had to pause it because she literally was in hysterics for 10 minutes. I'm like,
Yeah.
what is going on?
Can we quickly talk about how Micah is one of the worst characters in horror history?
Worst humans
Ever?
in general, ever.
Yeah.
Like this
But
guy.
I will say, I do like the moment where she's like, you promised me you wouldn't bring a Ouija board. You wouldn't buy a Ouija board. He's like, I didn't buy a Ouija board. I borrowed one.
Dude, he's such a gaslighting
Such
mother.
an-
Oh
Yep.
my
He is
god.
the ultimate gaslighter. Yeah.
I put him
Horrible
up
boyfriend.
there with that douchebag from Midsommar. Like those
Oh
two
my
were
God.
like neck and neck with me. But I
They
still
would've been
don't think
buddies.
that like I don't like because like we were in the movie theater watching Midsommar on opening night and the sexual assault scene happened. And like everybody in the theater was laughing. And I was like, why are we laughing at this? Like, if that was a girl that was drugged and they were doing that to her, nobody in
Right.
here would be laughing. You know, and I was like,
Right.
look,
Yeah.
the guy's a piece of shit, but man, no one deserves that. Like, I don't care who you are. Like, no
Right.
one deserves the R word. You know,
Right.
like
Yeah.
that's heavy, man. Like that movie's fucked up anyway. Like
Yeah.
that whole movie had me like,
I was just like blown away. I was like,
Yeah.
this is shocking. It's incredible. It's better than Hereditary. So
Agreed.
it was really good.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I love them both for completely different reasons. Like, I think that's what's so great about Ari Aster is both those movies are very good, but extremely different. Midsommar, I don't mind rewatching. Hereditary blew me
I
away the
won't.
first time, and I feel like that, like I do for the Speak No Evil movies.
Oh
You know,
my God.
like the original Danish version, I watched it. I'll never watch that again. Ever.
Really?
Never.
I haven't seen
No.
the original. I've only seen the remake.
Oh, the original is gonna wreck your world. The original is way different.
I've already been told that the ending is completely different.
Way different. It's so much darker. Like I said, as
Yeah.
a father, I was screaming. Like the thing about that movie, I thought about that movie for weeks after watching it. Again, I'll
I was-
never watch it again. The American
telling-
version, I'd check it
Yeah.
out again. I'd watch it again. I had enough fun with it.
I'm
There's
going to watch it again this
nothing-
week.
Yeah, there is nothing fun about the Danish version. And I tell people, if you're watching or you're listening and you haven't seen it and you're like, oh, it's a foreign film, it is 98% English. There's
English, yeah.
maybe 2% of the movie that's done with subtitles.
Okay.
Everything else is in English, and it will make you so angry. Like I said, I'll never watch it again. Never. Like I saw it.
Yeah.
It's a very well-made film, and it does its job. It burrows its way into your head, and it will not leave, no matter what.
I will say, as only having seen the remake is phenomenal. I was telling Ethan after I first saw it that it literally stuck with me. Like I couldn't get it out of my head. It was just there. And I just saw James McAvoy's evil smile. And I'm just like, oh my God, I want to see more of this. Like
You need to text me after you watch the original, because
Okay.
I'm telling you, you're gonna text me and be like, WTF! Exclamation. Like,
I remember still being absolutely furious with these parents because I was like, why are you still there? Like they kept leaving, coming back, leaving, coming. I was like, what are you doing?
oh, just wait.
There's
just
so
wait.
many signs.
But the thing is, like, I guess that's like a big thing over there. Like the way the Danish are, how they try to be super polite and you know, they'll let people
really?
essentially walk on them. That like it's a huge, huge thing over there, and that's why the movie was
Interesting.
made. Yeah,
Interesting. So we have to come into it with that perspective.
right. And this,
I
like I said, the
know-
original.
Yeah. European horror in general tends to have darker endings, and I tend to gravitate more towards that. But with this movie, the different ending worked.
See, and that's the thing. We knew one, it's American. Two, it's Blumhouse. So we knew we were going to get a sanitized version of the ending. And watching the
110%.
trailer, like the first trailer we saw, I was like, this is going to be way different because there are certain scenes in the trailer alone where I was like, oh, this isn't going to end the same. awesome. Like now I'm excited to see it. And James McAvoy is one of my favorite actors. I think that he's absolutely phenomenal. And like I said, I would watch this one again. I was very cautious about how they were going to do this film. And
Yeah.
like I said, once you watch the original, you'll see why. You're like, because when you watch this original, you'll go, there's no effing way they would have been able to make this movie in the States and get away with
Yeah.
it.
Now I want to watch it.
Not
It's
from any
worth it.
mainstream,
Like,
not
yeah.
from any mainstream studio. There's no way Blumhouse would have done that.
I will tell you, don't watch this one with your kids. Like it is,
Okay.
it is.
Don't watch
that
either one, in my opinion, with your
heavy.
kids.
Like, and like I said, the Danish one, I'm telling you, it is a very well made film. It is a very well made film. But as a father, you're gonna lose your shit. Like,
Okay.
why are you do? This doesn't spoil anything. There's a moment where they're after everything is out in the open, Nina, and I'm not gonna say what that is. They're driving, and the one
Mhm.
dad gets out of the car and takes a piss, comes back, gets in the car, and continues to drive. And you're just like, he's out of the car. What are you doing? Like, oh,
Gotcha.
both of you. After you watch the
You
Danish
can
version,
keep
I'm
car.
begging you to please, please, please text me,
Oh,
call me,
Okay.
pigeon carrier me if you have to. Like, I need to
God.
know.
I will watch
what
it
you
during
think.
work.
Now,
One
Josh.
works-
I'm
one
sorry.
work
Now,
watch
Josh
this
wants
week.
to see. Josh wants to see the American version.
It's like I said, it's
He could
it's
handle it.
way
He's mature
more-
enough.
he's way more sanity. I would not let him watch the Danish version until
Okay.
you've seen it and see if what his level of darkness is. It's the
Gotcha.
darkest horror movie ending I've seen in my entire life.
Oh
In
my
my
God.
entire 38 years. It tops
Really?
The Mist. It tops
Wow.
American Werewolf in London. It tops all of them. It is the
Wow.
literal darkest ending. I was angry at the end of this movie. I was like, damn, that movie was good. I'm pissed off. I want to fight somebody, and I'll never watch this again. Never, ever, ever watch it again. I don't
Okay,
ever
cool.
want to feel. Watch that movie when you're in a really good mood. So that way, if you're in a pissed off mood already, you might like punch a dog or something.
All right. It will be watched this week, definitely.
For sure.
So
That is not a gateway movie, guys.
no,
It's not.
we like to
Definitely
chase.
not.
We like to chase squirrels here. That has nothing to do with what we were talking about. But
That's completely okay.
Exactly.
Ethan, it is up to you for one more to round us off.
okay. I actually have 4 more, so I'm just gonna
Perfect.
spit them all out. Michael J. Fox's Frighteners.
Frighteners.
Love that
Frighteners.
movie. And then we have Critters, Tremors, and
Mhm.
Ghoulies.
Love Tremors. Oh my God.
So
Those are all
I
good
love
ones.
all of those.
Yeah.
So I think
I have
those
a
are
couple
all
of-
acceptable for
Yes.
younger teenagers on up.
Mhm.
Absolutely. I have a couple of honorable mentions as well because I'm gonna get yelled at if I don't mention them. I'm just gonna be broad and be like anything directed by Tim Burton.
Fair.
Pretty much.
Like just don't even. Oh, why didn't you mention Nightmare Before Christmas?
I will say Tim Burton, in my opinion, has directed the only perfect movie ever made.
Which is
Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
I haven't seen it.
Okay.
What? Perfect.
Never
It's the
seen
perfect
that.
movie. Like genuinely. My favorite movie of all time is Back to the Future.
Okay.
Pee-wee's
I
Big
love Back to the
Adventure
Future.
is the only perfect movie I've ever seen. The horror elements land. It has the greatest jump scare of all time with Large Marge. It is funny. It's a romance. It's an adventure movie. It has the doctors with the bike when they have the clown stuff, like terrifying. Like it's the perfect movie.
Yeah, I don't remember ever watching it. I'm kind of sad I never did, but I will fix that. I'll watch it.
So we can fix that.
Yeah, that is
Yes.
easily hands down my favorite Burton film and literally the only perfect movie I've ever seen. I have no complaints whatsoever about that movie. The whole thing is just so good.
Excellent.
Okay. Well, Ethan, what's your favorite Tim Burton movie?
I think my favorite Tim Burton movie would probably be Edward Scissorhands.
Mine too.
Yeah.
Some
Vincent
honorable
Price, one last time.
one last time for Vincent
last
Price,
time.
yeah, and Winona Ryder is phenomenal in
Yeah.
that movie.
Yes.
Yeah. Some honorable mentions. I have to mention Harry Potter because that was something I remember carrying with me from childhood into my time as a young adult. Fun times. Secret of Nim. It's about rats that are experimented on by evil adults. And they become sentient. So that's a fun one. Anything by Roald Dahl. So like Matilda, James and Giant Peach, obviously, Willy Wonka. So those are my honorable mentions.
Perfect.
Very good.
Yeah. I think that's everything for Gateway Horror. Is there any other mentions that you wanted to bring up, Ken?
I guess one more I could talk about for a teenage age. Try to help you not talk to strangers would be The Black Phone. That
That's a
was
good
Yes.
a good one. And like I said, that's a little too scary for maybe your younger audiences. But if you're getting to that teenage area, because there's a lot of real home abuse type stuff that goes on in that movie too.
Yeah.
That's
I
really
was
hard
just
to
gonna
watch.
say the scene where the daughter is
Yeah.
crying and everything, that got to me really bad.
When she's getting the whooping, like I hate scenes like that. I fucking
I
like
do
that to
too.
me. Like I don't know. I don't know what you
It
could
brought up a few
possibly.
repressed memories. I was like, oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I just don't know how you can hurt your kid. Like I can't fathom it.
Right.
I'm a disciplinarian. Don't get me wrong. I truly
Sure.
believe in discipline.
Absolutely.
I've never, ever, ever hurt my children. I've never hit my children with an object. My
Right.
children have gotten, when they were kids, you get a swat on the hand or a swat on the butt as a don't do
Right.
that. But like I said, I've been watching that scene made me physically ill. Like it's just like because that's how it was when we were kids, like
Yeah.
we, get the belt,
We-
go get a switch,
yeah.
you better make it a good one. That's how we were
Yeah.
raised. And
And if it
you get
wasn't,
old-
then you were gonna get hit even harder.
yeah. So, but like I said, we evolve, we become better people as we get older, and we learn from getting the hell beat out of us then that didn't do anything but piss us off even more.
Exactly.
So that scene is a very heavy one to watch.
For sure. Yeah. I would definitely say teens, at least. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely a good one. I would honestly go so far as to say most Blumhouse movies are usually safe for your older
Yeah.
children, like your
Yeah.
teens and stuff. So
But even like Megan, like I thought Megan was good for
Oh,
younger
yeah.
kids.
I
Because,
have friends that may let their 8-year-olds watch it.
Yeah, that was a big thing. That's where I think TikTok helped a horror movie. You had all these kids that were
Sure.
doing the Megan dance, and that really helped to get the kids on board with this movie. And
Yeah.
like I said, that works. Like I
It
love the
does.
TikTok marketing, like the smile marketing, when you had people at baseball games doing
Yes,
the
that
smile
was
and
great.
stuff. Like,
Yeah.
come on, like we need more stuff like that in the horror world.
They're doing it more. I saw Joker, they've got people dressed up as Joaquin Phoenix from the movie and they're holding the signs and they're spinning them and stuff. I thought that was cool. So it's not horror, but it's got elements in there. So
It's definitely horror adjacent.
Yeah.
definitely horror adjacent. It's a lot of communicating about how our mental illness, our mental health system is failing. But yeah, it's really good.
Horror has always been about making people uncomfortable. That's the point of horror. Like that's
And
why
social
I'm not
satire for sure.
I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole because this is not the time or place, but that's why I hate the term woke horror, because
I
horror
know.
has always had a social message ever since the genre was created. So
I want them to
that's
do more of that.
well, that's the point. That's the
Yeah.
point of horror to me is to use your real life, fictionalize it, and make you uncomfortable with it. Like
Yeah.
some of my favorite horror movies, Tales from the Hood. That's one of my favorite movies, and it's scary. It's got social message in it. The People Under the Stairs. It's all about wealth and gentrification,
Mhm.
but it's fucking scary. Like the whole movie's
Yeah.
terrifying. Mommy and Daddy are one of the scariest duos of all time. So
Yeah.
that's why I hate that term. But I will say another gateway horror movie that is kind of in the vein of that. And I know that a lot of people might look at this as not too much of a gateway, but I will say now that I'm older, Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors is a
Oh
good
yeah.
gateway. Like you still got enough practical effects. You still got the mental hospital setting of trying to, figure out what's wrong with these kids when really
Right.
it's not them. So I think that there's a lot of Nightmare on Elm Street 3 that could be a total gateway for kids that are 12, 13, 14, prepubescent to puberty age getting into horror.
I would argue 1 through 4 of Nightmare on Elm Street are great gateways because you've got, just teens just not being believed by their parents and them having to go outside of, you know, their parents are not able to help them. They have to help themselves.
Right.
And then you've got part two where you've got, you know, the LGBTQ plus elements to it. And then, you know, for people that don't have as much representation as they should in horror or just in general. But I mean, all of these movies, especially 3, you've got kids that are having to rely on themselves and their own strength to overcome something. And I think 3 is great because you still have a couple of adults that are actually willing to fight for these kids. So
Right.
I love 3.
I think 3 has the best cast of kids.
Yeah.
There's not
For
one
sure.
kid where you're like, maybe that wizard kid, he's kind of a punk. But besides him, there's not one
He's
kid where you're like,
funny.
yeah, he's fine. But 4's my favorite. I get so much shit for it, but
4.
I love 4. Like, it's such a fun movie. And hey, Sheila, suck face, you know, and then you get the Freddy shark. Like, come on, man, it's gold. We love that shit.
Yeah. Yep. Ken, before we go, is there anything else you'd like to promote?
Yeah, this weekend, Ashley and I will be at Scarefest in Kentucky. Come out and meet us. We would love to meet you guys. Besides that, I would just say go to the channel, Sledgehammer Horror on YouTube. We do a My First Horror Movie every Monday. We do a recorded top 10 every Wednesday, and then a movie review or interview every Friday. And then every Thursday night, we do a live episode, whether it's a top 10 ranking, franchise ranking, tier ranking. And then every Saturday, we usually have a special episode. And then if there's any type of horror breaking news, anything like that, we'll do a short throughout the week. So while we're talking about it, one last question I got for you guys, because I consider this a horror movie, and I will fight to the death that it's a horror movie. We are getting a remake with Maika Monroe of The Hand That Rocks the Cradle.
Definitely.
Do you guys consider that a
Yes.
horror movie?
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
Okay. I got a lot of people that are like, yeah, it's a drama. I'm like, are you serious? Like, growing up, some of the scariest movies I watched were The Hand That Rocks the Cradle and Flowers in the Attic. Like, those two movies scared me.
Flowers in the Attic is totally gateway horror. Oh my
Yes.
god.
Yeah. And like I said, Maika Monroe, you know, from
That's gonna be
It Follows and
Long Legs.
Long Legs is going to be the evil nanny in The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. Put me in, coach. I want to play. Like,
Definitely.
I'm in.
Yeah, for sure. I'm so excited for her. I knew that she would go on to do bigger, better things, but I didn't think she'd stay in horror. So I'm really glad that she's choosing to.
Me too.
Yeah.
We'll take her.
We'll accept her.
We'll accept that.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing for us, we will be again at Sound Growler in Tinley Park for horror trivia October 24th at 7:30 p.m. and Days of the Dead Chicago November 22nd through the 24th. All of Ken's information is going to be in the video description below. And until next time, guys, just remember, if you ever find yourself in a horror movie, don't have sex, don't do drugs.
And certainly, don't die. We'll see you next time.